Welcome back to the Legacy Podcast. My name is Olisya Grant, co-founder of Matrix Legacy, Inc. We are back for episode number 36. This is the show where we create a blueprint for success, we look for ways to create generational wealth, and we break those chains of a poverty mindset. Now, I just came off of one of the most phenomenal events I've been to in a long time. I had the honor and the privilege to be in a room surrounded by some of the greatest business minds in the world. And there's a few things that really stood out to me. And one of them was how much and how often all of these entrepreneurs, all of these great business minds were speaking about the importance of reading and the importance of personal development. So what I want to do on today's episode is give you 5 book recommendations. It's like, as I said, a part 2 to our episode number 20, Read Yourself to Wealth. And so I'm going to give you 5 more. I gave you 6 in the last episode, so I'm going to give you 5 more books to add to your reading list if you haven't already read them. But before we do that, going back to that point, I think it's overlooked a lot of times, especially if you have any interest or any idea in terms of becoming an entrepreneur, building something of your own, or just growing as a person. It's overlooked the importance of reading. And I don't know about you, but for me, I was completely turned off of reading just because of how much they push it on you in school. You got to read certain things in order to get a grade. So there's a different pressure on it. It's not enjoyable because you have to read it to pull out exactly what's going to get you the right grade. However, when you have the opportunity to read personal development books and read books that are just going to shape your mind into a more well-rounded and a well-oiled machine, you get to choose and pick out the parts that are going to create wealth in your life. And again, we talk about building wealth in every single area of your life. So it's not just about finances. When it comes to just developing as a person in your relationships, in your business, in your communication skills, in your health and wellness practices, the list goes on and on forever. And literally everything that you're looking for is inside of a book. So even though it might not have been an enjoyable experience while going through the school system to read, if you care about becoming the best version of yourself, if you care about creating wealth and abundance in your life, then one practice and one habit that you're going to have to build is reading. Now, I don't know for you, maybe flipping through the pages is too much. Maybe it's too exhausting to start there, but there's so many alternatives. There's audios that you can listen to online. You can find a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube. You can join book clubs and things of that nature, so it's more interesting. So you're not just trying to hold yourself accountable to building a habit that might not already be there, but reading is absolutely at the top of habits you're going to have to create if your goal is to create wealth. Because what we have in the pages of all of these books is somebody else's experience. And I've spoke about this before. If you go back and listen to episode 20, somebody has gone through something and learned a lesson already that you can bypass. You don't have to make the same mistakes because somebody's already gone ahead and done the work for you. You just have to do the work of reading and being able to identify what roadblocks or what barriers are going to come up for you ahead of time, so you don't waste time making those same mistakes that cost some entrepreneurs and some of the greatest minds in this world to spend extra years, decades even, trying to put something together because they had to learn it the hard way, right? So it's like we're giving a cheat sheet. So it's really important to take advantage of what's inside of books. Now, another thing that I find very interesting is the majority of us are willing to commit 8 hours a day to 8 hours plus a day to building somebody else's vision, to pushing another business's agenda forward and creating growth and prosperity for the companies that we work for. However, we're not willing to take even 30 minutes a day to push our own agenda, develop ourselves, create our own legacy, our own ideal lifestyle. And I personally think that's backwards. Whether you absolutely love your job or not, the work that you do on yourself is going to allow you to show up in a better way when you do arrive at work. So it's very important to spend at least 30 minutes a day working on yourself instead of giving all of your best energy away. Because if you're in a position where you don't enjoy your job, then working on yourself is going to allow you the option somewhere down the line to build something of your own, or to become the person that's going to find that ideal job or that ideal position that you're looking for. And so with that being said, I want to provide you guys with 5 of my top recommendations for books that you can read that can really create an impact or a shift in your life if that's what you're looking for. So the first book I want to share with you, and I've just recently posted this on my social media, it's called Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. Now, this is a super quick read. It's less than 100 pages, but it really deals with the importance of being able to adapt to change. And especially now with all of that's happening in the world, it's more important than ever for us to realize when things are moving, we have to move either with it or ahead of it, or else we're going to get left behind. So there's a lot of people experiencing devastation and heartache and all of this stuff because even though we saw the changes happening, we were so stuck in our ways and so comfortable in our comfort zone that steps were not taken, no preventative steps were taken, and now it's reactive mode. And so the book is really good at outlining the different personality types and how they react to change. So once you understand those, you can take a look at yourself and take a look at the people around you and really understand what needs to be done in regards to adapting and adjusting to when things change so that we're not left behind. So I would absolutely recommend that book. It's a quick read. It's so simple that you could read it to a child and they would understand, but it's complex enough that it makes you really dig down and think and relate it to different aspects in your life so it really connects. Absolutely fantastic read. I would recommend it. So that's Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. Second book I would recommend is The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. Now, I read this book maybe a year ago, but it didn't stick. And sometimes you'll notice you're trying to get through a book and you keep getting stuck. It's not even necessarily because of you or you're not able to get through the book. Sometimes you're just not in the space that you need to be in order to receive the messages that are in the book. So one thing I would advise is if you're having a hard time getting through a couple pages in the book, that's probably not the book that you need to be reading. And that's why it's important to have, mentorship and great people around you so you could ask them for recommendations. Hey, I'm trying to have more productivity in my life. Can you recommend a book to me? And they'll be able to give you what it is that you should read. My mentor always says to me, books should be read almost like as prescriptions. So you should go to your mentors or the people who you're following to get prescriptions because you need certain books at certain times to fix certain things. Just like how you go to the doctor for certain prescriptions of medications that are going to fix whatever you're dealing with in that season, in that moment. And so in trying to read The Power of the Subconscious Mind about a year ago, it really went over my head. I didn't understand, manifestation and things of that nature in the ways that I should have. I just hadn't gone through the experiences that I needed to really understand the content in this book. So The Power of the Subconscious Mind really speaks to how we are what we attract. So if we don't have all of the abundance that we're looking for in the world, it's because there's something in the way that we're carrying ourselves that is not attracting what it is that we're seeking. And it really breaks down how our thoughts are things. And my mind, once I actually understood what was going on in there, was absolutely blown. So what I would advise before jumping into The Power of the Subconscious Mind, especially if you're just starting to build up the reading habit, is to take a look, watch the movie The Secret. It's kind of like a documentary style movie. I know Lisa Nichols is in there and a few other incredible personal development coaches and mentors inside of that movie speaking to the laws of attraction. So again, if you're just trying to build up the habit, I would suggest taking a look at The Secret first and then jumping into this book because it will make a little more sense to you that way. At least that's how it worked for me. So the second book, all about laws of attraction, all about how our thoughts become things, all about how you're able to manifest certain things in your life, good or bad. The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy is number 2 on that list. So book number 3 that I would recommend is The Cashflow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, I mentioned in part one, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I would still recommend reading that one first. If you've already gotten through Rich Dad, Poor Dad, then Cashflow Quadrant is like the next level. And what I really love about it is it kind of goes along with that concept of change. Sometimes we don't even realize how we're operating or what the actions that we're taking are leading to because nobody's shown us that there's another option. And so the Cashflow Quadrant really breaks it down and talks about how there's a difference between being on the employee or the self-employed side versus being a business owner and an investor. And sometimes we can play around in each one of these categories, but the ultimate goal is to hop over to the right side of the cash flow quadrant in regards to being a business owner and being an investor, simply because that allows you to have time and money together. And once you have the flexibility of time and money, you're able to leverage those things in order to get even more, in order to create even more abundance, not just for yourself. Now you're able to create things for your family, for other people, and the list just goes on. So if you are in a position where you are currently in a job, or you're an employee, or you're self-employed, but you're trying to create more of that, we're all looking for freedom in some sense of the word. Even again, this is not to say that there's anything wrong with having a job, but what is wrong is the fact that so many of us don't have an option. If we leave the job, or if we take a break from the job, then that means our paycheck is going to stop. And if our paycheck stops, that's the fuel that really allows us to do the things that we want in life. Money isn't everything, but you need it for just about everything. And so having the flexibility to be able to decide, hey, even though I love my job, I want to spend some time with my family, I want to take a vacation, I want to anything, without having that stress and the anxiety of, well, what happens now to my cash? Cash flow quadrant breaks down how you're able to make money in each of these categories so that you can have those things together, time, money together, so you can leverage it for even more. So I would absolutely recommend that book. I think it's phenomenal. That was probably the third personal development book I ever read, and literally changed the way that I look at business in general. So then we'll move on to recommendation number 4. This one is a little different, not necessarily about business or change, and it was a little intense. So if you have problems with, I don't know how to say, very explicit descriptions of pain and what that feels like, I wouldn't recommend this book for you. It's called You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Now, David Goggins is an ex-Navy SEAL, and his mindset in this book is all about the importance of being able to embrace pain. A lot of us run from pain because it causes discomfort, and what David Goggins' perspective is pain is all in our mind. If we're able to master the pain and embrace it, everything that we're looking for is right on the other side of that pain. It's pain that causes us to give up. And a lot of that, of course, comes from his background as a Navy SEAL, because you have to tune out what your body is telling you in order to complete whatever mission it is that's given at hand. And so what I really love about this book is you can apply it to your life, because it's painful and it's uncomfortable when we start new things or when we face challenges in our relationships, in our business, at work, etc. But if we embrace that pain and say, this is what's going to allow me to get to that next level, well, then we're set. That's what separates the masses from what they call the classes, is those people who are able to embrace that discomfort, embrace that pain, and say, I'm going to push through this because nothing can hurt me unless I allow it to. And so it was just such an interesting perspective for me. There's a lot of stuff in there we could do with a few less details, but he just went through such a challenging life, as many of us have. But he never let his challenges get the best of him. He just allowed them to make him stronger every single time. And so for those of you who might be battling with something in your life that you feel like is holding you back, could be childhood experience, like childhood traumas, could be self-doubt, could be anything really, I would definitely recommend this book, because it changes your perspective on how you choose to view pain and discomfort. So I really enjoyed that book, and I would recommend You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And then the 5th one, this was the second personal development book I ever read, and it stuck with me all the way through. I read this about 3 years ago, and then 2 more times since then, because the more I go along, the more valuable I realize that relationships really are. And the 5th book I'm going to recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Now, this is an absolute classic. It allows you to see that how you interact and how you show up for people and how you choose to create value for others unlocks or blocks everything that you are trying to build. A lot of people don't realize that it's the people in our lives that are able to open the doors to opportunity, that are able to connect us to people we might not have reached otherwise, or information that we might not have had access to otherwise. But sometimes we let our own stuff get in the way of that, and our own needs allow us to come across as selfish to some people. So even if our goal is to help, we're coming across as needy. We're coming across as if we're trying to take, or as if we think we're better than others. And it's all about the way that we communicate and the way that we interact. Every interaction matters. And so How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's like holding up a mirror and taking a look and saying, am I really who I think I am to others? Am I serving others the way that I want to? Am I really adding value to other people, or am I constantly just taking? So it's really a self-reflection. It's such a powerful tool. And since reading that book, my most powerful relationships, my strongest relationships have all occurred after I made it through that book. So I would absolutely recommend that. So that's my top 5. Who Moved My Cheese, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, The Cashflow Quadrant, You Can't Hurt Me, and How to Win Friends and Influence People. And again, guys, if you're feeling like you don't know enough, it's because you don't read enough. And it never stops. Everything that you're looking for is literally inside of a book. Somebody's already written it out. Somebody's already done it. All you have to do is pick up the book and digest it and download it, because what you're downloading into your mind is what's creating your reality. So definitely check out part 1 to this. That's episode 20 if you haven't already, for part 1 of the book recommendations and how to read yourself to wealth. Thank you so much for being here with me for another week. You can download the Matrix Legacy app in the App Store to keep up with all of our Matrix Legacy Inc. content. We've got daily quotes. We've got all of the podcast episodes up there, and a whole bunch of useful financial literacy tools that'll help keep you on track to building wealth in every area of your life, okay? So I will be here next weekend with another building block for success. Until next time, let's build a legacy.